This is an ad by BetterHelp. BetterHelp recently surveyed over 16,000 people and found that while 75% of people believe it's wise to seek support, only 27% of Americans are in therapy, and people stay silent to avoid being judged. BetterHelp has over 10 years of experience matching you with the right therapist. Because we're all better with help. Visit betterhelp.com/stopthestigma for their first ever State of Stigma report, the latest in mental health research.
It's Alexis. Quick update before we dive in. We're taking crime to the next level. True crime all the time, nonstop, over on X. You know, the old Twitter? Alexis Knight, crime breakdowns, interrogations, bodycams, all the chaos you love. Don't miss out. True crime all the time. Join the conversation on X. We've all seen it. The news stories that make you stop and say, wait a second, what? A dad who seemed like the perfect family man suddenly kills his entire family. A quiet college student who never got in trouble now commits a brutal murder. A woman at the end of her rope snaps and does something unthinkable. And every time, people say the same thing. They never seemed like the type. I would have never guessed. There were no warning signs. But here is the reality, guys. People don't just snap out of nowhere. There's always something building beneath the surface. And now, more than ever, people are reaching their breaking point. And when they do, they're going further than ever before. So what is happening? Why are we seeing more extreme acts of violence from people who, until that moment, seemed completely normal? And the bigger question, could this happen to anyone? I am Alexis Knight, and in this episode, we're not just talking about crime. We're talking about the rising wave of extreme violence, why more people are snapping, and what that means for the world we live in. This is Alexis Knight Investigates. The Breaking Point. Why are people snapping to violence more than ever? All right, let's talk about the reality behind this very true trend, because this isn't just a story about hardened criminals or people with violent pasts. The truth is, regular people who look just like you and me, they're committing some of the most extreme acts of violence we've ever seen. And if you think I am exaggerating, let's look at the facts. The numbers don't lie. In the United States, violent crime has skyrocketed by 75% in just 1 year. What does that mean to you? Millions of additional violent incidents, more domestic murders, more road rage killings, more random public acts of violence. And it's not just happening here in the United States. This is a global trend. In Australia, reports of rape and attempted rape, they've jumped 226% in the past 2 decades. 2 decades, sure, but 226%? Why is it jumping at all? Shouldn't we have a better handle on crime these days than we did back in the wild days, right? The Wild West? What is going on in our world today? In India, domestic violence-related murders, they're on the rise. In the UK, crime by knife is on an all-time high, and I'm talking murder. Thousands of fatal stabbings every year. In the United States, it's very obvious. The gun war continues. People always say, let's take away the guns. They are shooting people, but it's the people that shoot the guns. And as we can see in the UK, they can also find knives. Same thing would happen here. That'd be quite the thing if everybody was getting stabbed instead of shot. Can you even imagine? With gun violence, we don't hear as much about this kind of brutality with stabbings. Maybe that makes it a little more real. In South Africa, violent crime is climbing. That's at an alarming rate. Sometimes we fantasize about South Africa and how nice it is. Well, it's very violent. And let's get this straight. This isn't just a coincidence. Something is pushing people over the edge. And it's not just that people are getting violent in the first place. It's how far they're taking it. A minor argument turns into a murder. A breakup ends up with one person slaughtering the other. A small dispute, it explodes into something horrifying. And when people do snap, they aren't just reacting, they're erasing people. They're making them disappear. I mean, think about it. Think how personal this all is. If you want to strangle someone, and I know my true crime fans know this, strangling takes minutes. This is not a quick reaction. This takes sustained rage, patience, persistence as you hold someone by their neck for several minutes. How about dismembering a body? I mean, this takes time and tools and a seriously eerie level of mental detachment. How about burning remains? We hear about this. Well, that's not a panic decision, okay? This is an actual decision that you have to think about and plan for and set up. And this is why we need to start asking the hard question. What is pushing people past their breaking point? Why is this trend on the rise? Because the trend is clear. People are not just angry these days, they are losing control. All right, so we know it's happening. And we know people, ordinary people, that's what I'm talking about. Everyday people. They're losing control in ways we just haven't seen before. And it's leaving the biggest question, which is why? What is making people reach their breaking point like this? Because people don't just wake up and decide they need to kill someone that day. This isn't random. It's a building process. And when you start looking at the patterns, the signs are right there. Here's something that we don't talk about enough. Modern life as we know it, it's pushing people further than ever before. Think about it. More financial stress than ever before. That's been talked about all over the place. And certainly, a lot of you are feeling it. People are drowning in debt. They're fighting to afford their rent, constantly feeling like they're one step away from losing everything. And that isn't just frustrating, it's psychologically exhausting. And when people feel like they have no way out, they lash out. And then you have social media, that makes everything worse. Studies show that people who spend more time online actually experience higher levels of anxiety and anger and resentment. And why? Well, because everything's a competition. You are constantly comparing yourself to people who seem to have perfect lives. You're exposed to rage-inducing content every single day. And guess what? The angrier you are.
This is an ad by BetterHelp. BetterHelp recently surveyed over 16,000 people and found that while 75% of people believe it's wise to seek support, only 27% of Americans are in therapy, and people stay silent to avoid being judged. BetterHelp has over 10 years of experience matching you with the right therapist, because we're all better with help. Visit betterhelp.com/stopthestigma for their first ever State of Stigma report, the latest in mental health research.
The more those lovely algorithms are going to keep feeding you. People are more isolated than ever in all of this. There was a time when people had real support systems, actual communities and neighbors and extended family they could talk to and be around. But now more people than ever feel completely alone. And that is dangerous because when people have nothing else left to lose, that can be when they snap. And let's not ignore the elephant in the room, mental health. It's at an all-time low. We have anxiety and depression rates that are skyrocketing, rising substance abuse issues. And if you don't know about that one, turn on any news anywhere. People dealing with trauma and PTSD, emotional suppression without any real support. And here is the thing. When people do not process emotions, The emotions don't go anywhere. They don't disappear just because you don't deal with them right then. They sit there and they wait for you. They simmer under the surface because they still need to be. And they'll wait there until the wrong moment, the wrong trigger, the wrong argument, and then suddenly it's all coming out at once. And when that happens, that's when we see people lose all control. And here's what's even scarier. That final trigger that really gets someone going, it's almost never as big as the reaction because there's so much behind the reaction. I mean, think about how many times we hear stories like a guy kills his wife over an argument about dinner, or a road rage incident turns into a full-blown shooting, or that breakup that led to murder. Why? Because the trigger isn't actually the cause. It is just the final drop in the bucket that's been filling for years. And this is what people don't understand about violent outbursts. The violence didn't start in that moment. It started long before. So the question becomes, how do we stop people from reaching that point in today's world? Or is it already too late? It's a real thing. Let's really get into this because we keep saying that people are snapping, right? That doesn't happen in a vacuum. This term snapping may not be what this is at all. We're used to hearing snapping. That's what makes it seem not quite as bad as it is to hear that someone snapped again. Someone who's in a normal life, living a normal way, everything is fine, and then suddenly something happens, right? But here, this trend has something else in it, doesn't it? Something has been added to the mix because it's happening more and more often. Something is pushing people to the edge more and more. The world we live in today, it is a complete pressure cooker. And for some people, that pressure builds too much until one final moment makes them explode or snap. So let's break it down. What is different now? Why are people snapping more often? And why are the outbursts getting more extreme? We know stress, and I'm not talking about, oh my gosh, my Wi-Fi is slow. I'm talking about chronic, life-consuming stress that just doesn't go away. More and more people have this. Financial stress. More and more people than ever are struggling to pay rent and buy food, just survive. And when you are in that constant state of survival mode, scared about paying your rent, not able to spend money on yourself and give yourself a break, every moment feels like a threat. And then there's all that social pressure. It's relentless. We live in a time where everything really is about status and image and competition. And the pressure to be successful and attractive and constantly winning at life, it's suffocating. There's no real escape. And 50 years ago, if you had a bad day at work or an argument with your spouse, you went home and then you disconnected from your day and you cooled off. Okay, now you're at home, now you're doing that. But now you are constantly bombarded with the news and social media and all those opinions. And all of that can fuel anger and resentment, even paranoia. And here's where it gets really dangerous. When people feel like they have no control over their own lives, they look for control anywhere they can find it. And for some, that control comes in the form of violence. But it's not just stress. We know that too. There's another key factor that nobody really talks about enough. The isolation. We hear about it on the news that people are isolating more than ever. But what's happening is that people are lonelier than ever. Friendships are declining. More adults now, they say they have zero close friends. More people live alone, and even when they don't, they're often in a state of feeling disconnected from the people around them. And there's no real emotional outlet for so many. I mean, we used to live in communities where people could talk or vent or just feel supported. But now everything's online. We bottle everything up. Don't even talk to the neighbors. And that is a recipe for disaster. Because the truth is, people are not built to handle every single thing all by themselves. And when they do, the pressure builds. And it builds some more. And then it builds some more until it finally erupts. And that eruption, that's what we're seeing play out in these extreme acts of violence. And here's what's really terrifying about all of this. The final trigger is almost never as big as the reaction. We've talked about that. But what that does is it makes anyone who's standing or sitting next to you capable of exploding, even if you look at them the wrong way. And, we see these crimes on the news and we're thinking, what set them off to do something so bad? You wanted the remote, so you stabbed your partner? A parking space made you shoot a stranger? And your girlfriend no longer loves you, so you must kill her. How does this happen? I mean, the trigger isn't even about the event. These things aren't even big enough to create a murder reaction. There's nothing self-defense about these. A guy loses his job. He's drowning in debt. His relationship falls apart, and he feels like a failure. He's bottled all of this up so he can seem normal to everyone around him. And now he's got frustration and anger and resentment just ready to explode. Then one day his wife comes home and makes one comment about how he didn't take out the trash that morning. And boom, that's it. That was the final straw. And suddenly, all of that suppressed rage comes out at one time. Not good for the wife. This is how people snap. This is what's happening out there. And the scariest part is that people can't see it coming. That's what I'm talking about. And this leads to one of the most important questions, because if this is happening more and more, can it be stopped? Is it getting worse? And, we have all these triggers and the pressure buildup and all of that. But what's actually happening to someone inside when they are snapping? What's going on in the brain? What is allowing this lack of control and these outbursts? The filter, where did it go? Because here's the thing, losing control is not just emotional. It is chemical and biological. And when the wrong combination of stress and anger and panic collide, the brain can literally shut down logical thinking and go straight into survival mode. When you get angry, really angry, your brain goes through 3 major changes, if you didn't know. So your little science here, your amygdala, the emotional control center in your brain, well, that goes into overdrive. And this is the fight or flight part of your brain. So it hijacks your logical thinking. It floods your body with adrenaline. And then suddenly you're not thinking rational. You're reacting and you're not happy. Then you have your prefrontal cortex. That's the logical decision-making part of your brain. Well, that shuts down. This is the part of your brain that says, hey, maybe don't kill someone over a minor argument. Well, it's no longer there to help you out. When the amygdala takes over, your prefrontal cortex goes dark. And that's when people stop weighing any consequences. And then your body floods with cortisol. This is the stress hormone. It tells your body, hey, we're in danger, act fast. And when it's too high for too long, this can lead to explosive, uncontrollable aggression. It is a real thing. And this is why people who snap, they often say, I don't even remember what happened. And a lot of us out there, right, we think, well, that can't be right. But it is scientifically right. Their brain was in full survival mode, pure instinct, no logic. But here's the other thing. Not everyone reacts to stress the same way. I mean, some people handle pressure and anger without ever getting violent. They never hit that limit. But for others, they hit their breaking point quicker. What can make this difference? Why and how can we try to figure it out? Well, we have past trauma. I mean, if someone grew up in a violent or unstable home and they have PTSD, for instance, their brain is already wired to react faster to harder stress. They're sort of constantly in a state of survival, ready to act to get them out of danger at any moment. You have mental health conditions, anxiety and depression. They can make the brain more sensitive to perceived threats, even PTSD, always on the lookout for threats. Substance abuse, drugs and alcohol, they lower impulse control, and they can make people more likely to act on violent urges. And then there's the chronic stress we all know about. If someone is constantly under pressure, financially and emotionally, socially, their baseline cortisol, it's already high. It's already sitting there. So it takes way less time to push that person over the edge. It's a circumstance waiting. And what makes this trend so terrifying? Well, more people than ever are living under extreme stress and isolation and pressure, which means more people than ever are walking around one bad day away from snapping. So that leaves us with a very big question. If we know this is happening, if we know more people are losing control and situations are not ideal, can anything be done at this point to stop it? Are we just watching society become more violent and more impulsive, more dangerous, and nothing can be done? Really, are we stuck with this? Is this the new normal? A constantly violent society that just keeps getting more violent? How are we going to go anywhere or do anything outside of our homes, which would never be secured enough? This is where this could head. Is there an actual way to slow down this rise in extreme impulsive violence? Because right now, all signs really do point to this getting worse. And no, they're not talking about it out there, but this is a very real thing. If you thought things were bad now, here's the reality. We are heading toward an even more volatile world. The cost of living is rising. Wages aren't keeping up. Everything financial in our world is a mess. People feel more trapped than ever. And when people feel trapped with no way out, what do? They act out. We have more emotional isolation. Technology is supposed to keep us connected, right? But people are lonelier than ever. They don't have as much human contact and human interaction. No real friendships, no real support. And that creates pressure with no release valve. We have more anger everywhere. Look at how people react. Rage is the default emotion across so many different things. Online, in traffic, at work. People are more aggressive and more defensive, more ready to explode. And where did all the patience go? That's a tough one. We just have more entitlement, don't we? Studies show us that younger generations have lower frustration tolerance overall. If people don't get what they want instantly, the reaction is faster and stronger because the expectation is there. So what does this mean? It means more people are walking around right now with you and me, one bad day away from snapping, like I said. So is there a solution? Are we really just watching society break down in real time? Here's the truth. It's not an easy fix, but there are things that could slow this down. Right now, therapy and counseling are either too expensive for people or they're seen as optional in care, and that needs to change. In our world today, mental support should be an absolute by a professional. Our world is way too stimulating than it ever was. There are online applications that we're all on entirely too much. And in doing all of that, we think we're gaining knowledge, but we're losing our human experience, and that is causing anger and frustration. We could help with our younger generation. Kids, they don't really grow up learning how to handle stress or failure or frustration. They need that more now than ever. So when they hit the real challenges as adults, they know how to cope with something. And, this all sounds great. Let's all hang out and get off our phones and have some feel good moments and get back to real life as humans. Sounds great. But let's be honest, none of this is happening anytime soon. And if things keep heading the way they're going, we're only going to see more people snapping, more isolation. And it's all going to be in ways, this violence, that we never expect. It will go farther. So, what does this all mean? Well, it means we're living in a world where rage is building, patience is disappearing, and stress is pushing people further than ever before. But more than that, it means we need to start paying attention, because right now, we're ignoring the warning signs, and we will regret that. Look around. This isn't just about crime rates going up. This is about the way people handle life itself. When was the last time that you saw someone calmly working through any frustration? When was the last time an argument de-escalated instead of spiraling out of control where you had to walk away or separate or take a moment? How often do we see people actually listening instead of just reacting? And no, I am not talking about every single person in this world. So if you are a perfect empathizer and your life is going great and you are calm, that is awesome. Share some insight. I'm talking about the majority of people that are feeling overwhelmed in general. It's a lot of Americans. It's a lot of people across the globe. The world has turned into a giant pressure cooker. And instead of people slowing down, they are speeding up. Instead of thinking, they're acting on impulse. And this isn't just something that affects the people who snap. This affects everyone. Because the truth is, you never know who's at their breaking point. To snap. Snapping is because you were not expected to do anything violent, but you snapped. So yes, again, that person standing or sitting next to you that's handling themselves just fine, we really have no idea. And that's the scariest part of all. And these are not little things. Someone's not angry and shoving someone. They're stabbing them. It's not okay. We're talking about everyday moments that turn deadly. The fender bender. Someone gets shot. Disagreement at a store that escalates into a violent attack between strangers. A workplace dispute that turns into a tragedy. We've seen all of it, and there's so many more. These events aren't rare anymore. Have you noticed? They're happening all of the time. And it's not just about violent people getting more violent. It's about regular people snapping in ways that no one expected. Think about how often you see videos online of random acts of public violence. People losing their tempers all over the place. Restaurants, traffic, airports. And now ask yourself, even 5 years ago, did it feel this bad? Think about 10 years ago. Was it ever this bad? And I have to say this again, is this even within our definition of snapping? Snapping was a term given to a certain situation, true. But this situation that we are seeing today, it's almost being instigated by the world around us. So are we snapping? Or is it really that we just couldn't hold on anymore to the pressures that are being put on us? What could that be called? How long can everyone hold on to what's being thrown at them? It's no longer that your life was fine and suddenly you just don't like something and you snap. This is about finally being unable to take it. And the world is contributing to the whole mess. Everything I have discussed. We are witnessing a shift, a cultural shift toward rage, toward impulsivity, toward a world where self-control is disappearing. And so that brings me to the last question. Is there any way to fix this? Have we already gone too far? This cannot change overnight. And the way things are going, it's certainly not slowing down. It's going in the wrong direction. We live in a society that glorifies instant gratification. People don't learn patience anymore. They learn they need what they want and they need to get it right now. They want what they want immediately. And when they don't get it, it's lash out time. Society pushes people to their limits. More work, less rest. More pressure, fewer coping skills. And society has created a world where anger is rewarded. Think about how outrage has become profitable. They're letting out criminals every minute. Murderers getting 7 years or 5 minutes. And then you have the Menendez brothers still in prison for 30 years. You have to notice this trend. Murderers are being let loose. Society is rewarding rage, anger, and murder. It's no problem. So where does that leave us? We're all out here in the world trying to live good lives. But we're living in a world where snapping isn't the exception. It's really becoming the expectation. And the worst part, people don't see it coming because you can't. The coworker who finally snaps, the neighbor who was normal until they weren't, the quiet guy at the gym, he's suddenly in the news. This isn't just happening in crime documentaries, the ones we all love, those random moments we're trying to understand. It's becoming real life. Everyday expectations. This is now. So, again, is there anything we can actually do about it? Recognize the signs. Be more aware. Be open to discuss mental health. In today's world, anyone can be a breaking point waiting to happen. And that's it. What can we do about it? That's all I have for today. This is Alexis Knight, and this was The Breaking Point. Why are people snapping to violence more than ever? Until next time, stay safe, stay smart, and pay attention. Because the next breaking point, it could be closer than you think.